On this episode of All the Mods 10, we make a compact and efficient fissile fuel production line to power our fission reactor. Hi there, welcome back. I apologize for the delay in between episodes. It is officially ski season and I have been skiing in my free time instead of making videos, but I will do my best to fit in some videos wherever we can. But I also have other hobbies that I enjoy, and I will be doing that when I have time. So let's go ahead and get into the bulk of the episode for today. I have made a little room over here for mechanism, and we will be putting in our mechanism fusion reactor, the industrial turbine, the SPS, and the fission SPS, and the turbine all in this room. Well, it's going to get expanded out that way. I will be building our fission reactor over here, and the largest size you can do is an 18 by 18 by 18 cube. I will be doing an 11 by 11 by 18, so that will go in here. But before we make that, we need fissile fuel, which is how we're going to be feeding our fission reactor. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I have a little chart I'm going to follow for this, and it's going to make my life a lot easier, and I will post that on the screen for you guys to view as well. But if you follow that chart, it makes it a lot easier to do this. Of course, I will be using Super Factory Manager to automate everything, and let's get started. So in between episodes, I went ahead and made some bees. To make fissile fuel, you will need uranium, fluoride, as well as sulfur. And uranium, I went ahead and made uranium bees. So you can see they're in our bulk storage. Let's go show you that really quick. So here's our bulk storage with sulfur, uranium, as well as fluoride. These guys are cranking along, but we may have to increase their production. We'll see. So here I have the fluoride bees. Here I have the uranium bees. I made 15 of those guys. And then we have 2 of the sulfur bees over here, or 2 beehives full of them. And to make the uranium bees, they are the radioactive bees. And if you see, it's a Cree bee mixed in with an iron bee, and the Cree bee is just a normal bee and you feed it TNT. So that's pretty simple. Everything else is self-explanatory. You guys know that by now. Alrighty, so let's get started. Over here, I have my interface, and we will need an induction card for that. And let's store some power in there. We'll say 1 million. We will also need to store water in here. Let's say 5 buckets of water. And then we will have to do our sulfur. A stack of those are fluorite. As well as our uranium. Okay, so we'll keep those guys all stocked in there, and they're all, we have infinite amounts of water. Our power is coming from our system, and then these guys, we have our bees making them. So we will need to make some machines, and also I'm going to put my Super Factory Manager here. Let's do this for now. Let's get started building the little contraption we'll need for fissile fuel. In the center, I'm going to put our isotropic centrifuge, and this is what's going to produce the fissile fuel. Then on the side here, we can put down our enrichment chamber. Then we need a chemical oxidizer, and we'll put a chemical infuser here. And we'll need a chemical dissolution chamber another chemical infuser. How about a rotary condensator? We'll just put these guys here. Okay, so I will link a little chart that I'm following along to kind of build this, and you guys can use that. It makes your life much easier. But for now, we can just go with that and close all of this up. The nice thing about this is with Super Factory Manager is if we want to expand any of these machines to produce more of them, we can do that vertically. And then we'll just copy the labels over and it'll work perfectly. So let's get started. We have this guy stocked up. We're going to need a disk. And let's go ahead and name this Fissile fuel. This is going to be very easy. A very kind of long but easy Super Factory Manager program disk, because all we're doing is doing inputs and outputs. So first I'm going to take care of power. And because we have so many different machines, I don't want to list every single one of them inside of our manager. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say every tick do, and we're going to input FE from interface, and I'll say output FE to, I'll call it tag power. So everything that needs power is going to get this label tag power. And we can go ahead and pull the labels. And I believe everything requires power. Even the isotropic centrifuge. Okay, so they all require power. And we push that back in and we make sure we say top side, because it's mechanism machines, so everything needs it. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure all of these guys, and I want to reset everything for all sides. Energy, I'm going to leave the top side as on, and all of the ejects are going to be off. Okay, then we grab the card from mechanism, configuration card. You shift right click to copy, and then it doesn't work because it's different machines. So let me just do this really quickly. So for the isotopic centrifuge, you can't insert anything from the top side, including the power. So I'm going to switch everything to input power from the back side. I have these machines set up, and because I typically like to insert things from the top side, but you cannot do that for the isotropic centrifuge. So you can insert on all the other sides except for the top side. So we are going to be inserting power from behind, which will be north side. So let's go ahead and change this from top side to north side. Now every machine should be getting, let's go ahead and do, uranium, just to double check. So we put the uranium in here. And you can see the power is going down, but it's not. Oh, interface is not labeled. Okay, so now this is getting power. And everything else should be getting power as well. Okay, let's get started with this first thing. So we need the chemical oxidizer. This first one. And this one needs to be getting sulfur. But in order to do that, we need to make... oh no, sulfur is over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do every 20. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do water as well. So we have 1, two machines that need to be making water. So we're going to do that. And we're going to input fluid water from interface and output fluid water to the rotary condensator. Do we only have one of those machines? Yes, so we'll do that top side. And then we're going to also output fluid water to the electrolytic separator oxygen top side. Actually, I think we only have one of those two, so I'm just gonna call it electrostep. Okay, so we need the rotary condensator and need the electrolytic separator. So we're going to be putting that on the top side. So fluid is going to be input on the top for this guy. And then the rotary condensator, we'll pick this one. And this guy, I think, needs to be decondensing, and then it's going to input on the top side. Okay, here's the electrolytic separator. Here's the rotary condensator. So now water is turning into water vapor, which is what we want. And then this guy is making hydrogen and oxygen. And we are going to dump excess hydrogen because we want the oxygen. Let's go ahead and grab some muffling upgrades for all these machines, so we don't have to hear them. Okay, so now this guy's going, this is creating water vapor, and this guy's oxygen. We're dumping all of the excess hydrogen, so when this fills up, it's going to dump the excess and continue making oxygen, because oxygen is what we want. Okay, so now that the water is done, let's go ahead and do our main thing. We are going to input from interface, and then we will output sulfur. Is that? Let's take a look. Yep, just sulfur. So we're going to output the sulfur to chemical oxidizer, and we'll call it sulfur dioxide, top side. And then we will output fluoride to the chemical dissolution chamber. We'll just call it chemical dissolution, top side. And then we're going to output the uranium underscore ingot to the enrichment chamber, top side end. Okay, let's pull the labels. So we have the enrichment chamber over here. The top side is going to be input. Okay, next we have the chemical oxidizer sulfur dioxide. That'll be this guy. Okay, and then we're inputting sulfur into that one. So items on top is going to be input. Oops. And then we need tack power. And then the chemical dissolution chamber is getting fluoride from the top side. So we push those guys in. This guy's getting sulfur. This guy's getting fluorite. And this guy's getting uranium. Okay, let's deal with the chemical infuser next, which is this guy. So we need to input sulfur dioxide and oxygen into this guy. The oxygen is coming from the electrolytic separator. We're going to do that from the bottom side, and it is the light blue one. Oops, under chemicals, output 2. Let's put in a forget. Input, I believe it's chemical. Oxygen from the electrolytic separator. Bottom side. And input to chemical infuser, sulfur trioxide, top side. So we have our next chemical infuser, which will be that guy. Now we want to input oxygen from the top side. So under chemicals, that's going to be oxygen. And then sulfur dioxide is going to be our other one. We will do that one from the back, I guess, input 2. Okay, so oxygen goes into the gold side, which I made that to be the top side. That means we will do the back side for the other thing, which is sulfur dioxide. So we need sulfur dioxide from the chemical oxidizer. Let's do another forget. So we're going to input So I'm not sure what happened. My recording stopped recording audio for some reason, and my game audio was being weird. I think some issue with Windows. So unfortunately, I lost a bit of audio through the footage, and I don't know. I don't want to tear this down and redo it all over again because it's kind of boring. But let me just give you guys a quick recap of what we're doing. We have all of these machines set up in one row. That way, if we need to expand any of them, we can expand them vertically, like how we're doing with these chemical oxidizer as well as these other chemical oxidizers. These guys are making sulfur dioxide, and these ones are making uranium oxide. The order of which of how you put these machines does not matter at all, because I'm using Super Factory Manager to move all the items around, and everything is being accessed through our interface: power, water, sulfur, fluorite, uranium, and the fissile fuel that is being made is being pushed back inside of our interface, which is going in a chemical cell and being stored inside of our AE2 system. Okay, and everything is pretty simple here. First, I'm doing power. And instead of listing every single different kind of machine, I just made a label called TAC Power, and all of these machines have that label. If you take a look at them, they're all double labeled. So then I can just put this TAC Power here rather than listing all of the machines. This next one is doing the water. So we're taking the water from the interface, and then we put those on the two machines that need water. And everything from here on out is just moving things from one machine to another. So we input those items from the interface, and then the sulfur we're putting in the chemical oxidizer that's making sulfur dioxide, the fluoride we're putting in the chemical dissolution chamber, and then the uranium we're putting in the enrichment chamber. And again, we're inputting on the top side for all of those. And then we pull from the bottom side of whatever machine that we can. If something has two inputs, or we cannot input on the top side, like the isotopic centrifuge, the top side is blocked, then for those machines, we're doing it from the back, as well as something like this chemical infuser, which has multiple inputs. So we have the orange one as well as the red one. These ones, then we're doing top and the back side for those. So just follow along with the chart and set down the machines and then go one by one from wherever you need to do it. And then just, input from whatever machine and then output it to the next one, and then input from that machine and output it to the next one. It's the code itself is not complicated. It's just a lot of inputs and outputs from different machines. And I have done I will post this code in the description below so you guys can paste it in there and then just label all of the machines, and it will work as long as you also set the sides. So you'll have to go through and set the sides manually. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to also do the sides. With that being said, we are now making 5 buckets of fissile fuel every second, I believe. And now we're ready to create our fission reactor. Okay, so since this is 11 by 11, we're going to need 121 on the bottom, and then 121 on the top. So let's put one of these reactor casings down. And then the edges will also have to be these guys. So I'll just make 100 of those. Like so. We can do vertical column, build on top. We want the reactor glass. That will take a while because we have to make these things. The enriched iron, but it's actually going rather quickly. So we can grab some of those, put that on the ground, copy it with this guy, and just do this. Okay, all the glass is formed. I made way too much glass. And why don't we do the exchanging gadget? Okay, that looks a little bit better. And then on the inside, we're going to have to put, and then on the inside, the top gets these control rod assemblies in a grid pattern. Like so. And then we go every other one. Then we need to put the rest, the fission fuel assembly things. So we'll go surface and build this all the way down. Oh, I don't want to do that. We want 11 by 11. Okay, now if we fill this in, you get those red particle effects, which means our multi-block is finished. So that looks interesting. So let's make some of these ports, about 6. And then we're going to want the eternal water block. This is what I'm going to be using to fill it in with water. It works amazingly. It takes a dark block a dark gem block, which is easy. Then this weather container, you need to get a weather container from tossing in an empty weather container inside of the environmental accumulator. And that comes from these structures in the world from Evilcraft. So we make a weather container like so. And then you go ahead and just toss that. Oops. You toss that inside of the environmental accumulator and it fills up with water. Then you get a weather container and this goes on a cooldown. So you can see that it's charging. So you have to wait until it does that. Okay, and then this one says, my only sunshine. But you need to combine it with 2 buckets of water to get this one. Which is when the rain begins to fall. And then you can make the eternal water block. So we're gonna go underneath. So right over there, we're going to put a port. And then we put the configurator. We need a configurator. So output waste, output coolant, input only. We input water, and you see that this immediately fills up with water, and this water block will keep it completely filled at all times. So that will be just fine. And then the other thing we need to input is fissile fuel. So let's go ahead and get an exporter or an export bus. And we will put acceleration upgrades in there. And then we need a cable. We'll use these guys. So we need another port over here that's going to be on input. And we'll put the export bus in there with acceleration cards. And we want fissile fuel. That goes in there. And this guy we will connect to our interface over here. Okay. So now this guy is filled with fissile fuel. But it's going kind of slow. And then on the back, we're going to put another port right here. And this will be the output waste port. Sorry, this will be the output coolant port, which should be the steam, I believe. So let's go ahead and grab a tank. And we'll put the tank over there. If we turn this on for a splitty second, so it has the radioactive waste, and this guy should be, this guy is not filled up with anything. Is this not making steam? By the way, once this starts going and you have radioactive waste, you cannot break this. If you break this, you will get a leak, and that is no bueno. So this guy is not outputting coolant. And it's not making steam either. Interesting. Let's bump this up to, let's say 200. Oh, there's the steam now. So once it gets hot enough, it'll make steam. You can see that the coolant is keeping up with it. This will never go down with the eternal water block. We're building up steam. Okay, the maximum is 574 millibuckets per tick, which might be more than the fissile fuel we are producing if it's for tick. But let's try it really quickly. And looks like this guy is keeping up. We're producing a ton of steam. The temperature is fine. Okay, everything looks good with that. Let's see our fissile fuel to see if we're keeping up or using. We are using fissile fuel, so we're going to have to bump up our production. Or we just reduce this for now. So instead of... Oh, and now this, you can see that the steam is filled up. What if we do output waste? Okay, so output waste, and this filled up with steam. Let's see if we can get an ultimate trash can. If this will work. The trash can does not work. What if we put this guy back and we do dumping excess? Or dumping in general. Except it's slow. I don't think we might not even have to do anything with the steam. The reason why I have it here is because I'm going to make our industrial turbine right next to it, and it's going to output directly into it. The only problem with this is I didn't put in a port for the waste. So if I go ahead and break this right now, it's going to leak radioactive material everywhere. So I'm going to remove this guy. And how about we get can we make a radioactive barrel? If we make a radioactive barrel and put that there, it does not. How about we put the radioactive barrel here and we get a mechanism pipe. So now this is filled with waste. Okay, and the waste is going in there. We need another barrel. Okay, so now that this has no more waste inside of it, we can go ahead and break it. And we won't risk leaking water everywhere. Or I'm sorry, we won't risk nuclear waste anywhere. You want to be careful with that. Otherwise, you'll have to wait many hours for it to resolve. I think what I'm going to do is put a... Do we want to keep the fissile or the radioactive waste in our A2 system? I think that's what we'll end up doing. So let's make an import bus. And we make another port over here, and this will be output waste. And we put our import bus in there, and we're going to do... So nuclear waste will go in there. Actually, I'm just going to do it on this side. So we put the port there. We have it. Turn to a waste output. We put our import bus on there. Nuclear waste is what we want to pick up. And these guys are now connected. So now that that's set up, we need to be able to store the radioactive waste somewhere in our system. So let's go ahead and make a, we need to make a radioactive cell. So let's go ahead and make a thing with these guys, this guy, and we need HDPE pellets and polonium. All right, we'll deal with this later. By the way, you cannot time one these guys by the looks of it. Yeah, the time one doesn't speed it up. So the mechanism devs are pretty good at blocking every cheesy way of getting rid of nuclear waste, but oh well. I think I'm going to leave you guys here for this episode. So we set up our fissile fuel automation or production line, as well as our fission reactor. And maybe we'll come back in the next episode and we can make plutonium and polonium. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.